All right, you ready to do this thing?
Yo.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Indy Investor Speakeasy. We're down to just two today. I don't know where everyone else decided to be, but man, how's your summer going?
It's going well. I don't know how we have 5 hosts and there's only 2.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. Everybody's traveling, I think, though, right?
Yeah. Why? Hell, I just got in at 2 a.m. last night with my my little one, which was quite the adventure. But I'm making it through. I'm powering through. Got a little bit of the opinion juice here in the glass. So I think today we're going to talk a little bit about the escrow process. I think everybody has talked quite a bit about getting to the point that you know how to analyze the deal, you know what you're looking for, you know whether you're going to value add or turnkey, you know whether you want to do short-term, mid-term, long-term rental on the back end or a flip or whatever it is you're thinking about. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand kind of what goes into the escrow process, what agents do to actually justify their commissions once they're in that process. And given the fact that you and I have done a couple of deals together here over the last several months, would love to feel free. You can talk about any of the particulars of our deals here on the call. I'm not particularly upset about that, but yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about that? Do you have kind of a direction you want to go to start?
Yeah, I think there's it's so challenging to get to pinned, right? And then there's a celebration once you pinned.
Yeah.
And I spent the beginning ages or portion of the real estate industry helping investors get the confidence to go pending. Mm-hmm. And my first 20 pendings ended in 17 mutual releases.
17.
And I was summoned.
So 15%.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I was summoned to the owner of my brokerage, his office. He's like, hey, just by the way, it's not normal. Like, good job for trying, but it's not normal. And the reality was, there actually was nothing wrong with any of those properties. It was that I wasn't educating my clients enough on the process.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's, like I said, so challenging to get to pending. You're writing offers. You're trying to compete with people. You're also trying to buy the time to analyze properties, get walkthrough videos if you're from distance. If you're here, book a show and get through the door, get that pre-approval. Tell a lender everything. We went for dinner last night to be able to get that special letter to write the offer.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge. So when you get pending, everybody's excited about it, but I didn't give anybody guidance on how to get to the closing table.
Yeah.
It was like the vision and the win was always getting pending. I would walk around and be like, I have 10 things pending right now. And I catch myself sometimes slipping back to that language, and I've stopped doing that.
Yeah.
It's like this month I have 6 closings. And the reason for that is step 1 is pending, then the fight begins.
Yeah.
A lot of times. It's very rare that anything goes smooth.
It's almost like getting to the medal round or something like that of the Olympics. Just based on when we're recording that's actually a little relevant as the U.S. has just entered the medal round now. So we'd love to talk about that. So you were saying, you were getting, your first 20, you got 20 under contract, which is fantastic. Do you think that not enough research went in there on the front end to get to that point, or what led to 17 of those not coming across the finish line?
Yeah, it wasn't a lack of mentorship. It wasn't a lack of education. It was a lack of, I didn't know the words to say to the other side of the table or to my client.
Yeah.
I was just running a gun. And the only experience and the only reason I have a real estate license is because I wanted to do this and invest. So it was firsthand experience that I had went through and purchased a property, and I didn't use a realtor. We just went to the title company and had a lender and closed it up. There's no inspection either.
Wow.
So there wasn't that challenge. In fact, that was 2019. I think they waived appraisal. The lender waived the appraisal and just sent it straight through.
That's incredible.
And if not, then they just appraised $50,000 over what it was supposed to, and everything was happy and everybody was cheerful. So pre-COVID era, real estate was great.
Yeah.
In that conversation with my mentor, looked like he just said, hey, this isn't normal. Most people close these. Most people have maybe 5 in a year that mutual release. And it's truly like mutually everybody is saying, hey,
This isn't the right fit.
this isn't the right fit. And everybody's walking away happy. It was not the case for me. It was a lot of flip clients too.
Yeah.
And a lot of burr clients, which tend to have a higher mutual release.
Yeah, I was going to ask if investors tend to have a higher rate.
They do. They certainly do more than retail homeowners. And actually, I've never had a retail homeowner back out, even with like appraisal gaps.
Really?
It's only been investors. And the case that I found was, number one, I didn't have scope support done before. So I was just guessing off of what I knew firsthand, which was DIY.
It's generally a little cheaper on DIY than when you get a contractor to do it.
Right. I think the work that I had previously done was 35, 40K out of my bank account. That probably would have been 90K. Yeah, really.
If not more. Yeah.
Right. And probably done better than what I did. That house was interesting. But for that, it's like, I didn't get out where I see a night correctly. I was putting like 5 miles in. And it was just rookie. You know, I was getting out there, putting my name out. And I actually can think back to it was 3 clients for those 17 mutual releases. All of them closed and had successful burrs and flips.
With you?
Yeah, I've actually closed multiple deals with all 3. There's only one that I don't work with anymore.
And who fired who?
I fired them.
Yeah. Okay.
So fortunately, I had a mentor that had his ear on the ground and knew, hey, this isn't right.
Something's a little off.
Got to pull them in. I got put on basically a PIP for like a teacher performance improvement plan. I had to come into his office every single Wednesday at 3:30 and sit down and just bring questions. And through that curiosity, it led me to find myself going, pending doesn't mean anything. Pending is just exactly like you said. We've been through the prelims. We're now entering into the finals, and it's judgment day.
Yeah.
Is the property good enough for the buyer? Is the buyer good enough for the seller? And is the seller truly ready to negotiate and get rid of this thing? Part of that, I think, being we get a scope of we look through a lens and it's like this deal was too good to pass up, and that when oftentimes like the inspection comes back, it's like, oh wait, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not good at all.
There's a reason why this deal is too good to pass up. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think you're hitting on some really interesting things. The way I tend to view it, I'm curious if you view it the same way, is that there tend to really be 3 moments in which you can negotiate during an escrow process. The first negotiation is when you make your initial offer, which obviously, hopefully you've done some homework on the front end, looked at the photos at least, put together some type of scope of work. For anybody who isn't familiar, we actually do have a free estimator on our website. No obligation to use us, offishconstruction.com/estimator, for anybody who wants to just quickly rough numbers to understand, and it works in most markets. California might be an exception. But yeah, you go in there, you have some level of understanding of where you think that SOW is going to land.
Yep.
If it's some type of value add, if it's a turnkey, obviously you're hoping that's not near 0.
Shouldn't be 0.
Yeah, no idea. The second stage, since this isn't 2020, this isn't 2021, where people were waiving inspections and waiving appraisals, is during that inspection contingency window.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've gotten an inspector through there. If you know that this is a value add type of opportunity, you also should get your contractor through during that time to really get an understanding of, from the inspector's perspective, what are the safety items that need to be dealt with, and contractors, how do we see your vision, and making sure that the 2 of them are on the same page. And that's, again, your opportunity to negotiate. If things weren't disclosed, which nothing is ever disclosed on that houses, that's wrong with them, that's your opportunity to either get the price reduced, get them to fix something, or to get out of the deal. The third window is during that financing contingency. If you have that, tends to be something that's a little more common on houses that are not going to be value add type of houses, to make sure that they're going to appraise. But
Sometimes.
Yeah.
There's new software out there.
Okay.
We'll get to that. I think going through the step-by-step is going to be great.
Yeah.
I love how you frame that up.
Yeah.
I want to add one more, though.
Oh, okay.
And it's before writing the offer.
All right, let's talk about that.
It's when you give your realtor the creative freedom to go back and forth with the other realtor. This doesn't always work, but when there's a really great listing agent and a buyer's agent coming in, and you just let them kind of go back and forth for a little bit, and then say, like, just use an example. Say it's 123 Main Street. We're doing a fix and flip. The property's listed at 125, and all numbers are showing that we need to be in like the 90s. And giving a good buyer's agent to kind of like push that door open. I'm never going to call somebody and say, hey, we're going to offer 90 and this is how it's going to go, because the door isn't going to get open. It's going to get slammed in my face. Like, no, and offend them. It's coming in and saying, hey, I see that you guys are at 120. Been here, been on the market for 90 days.
It doesn't seem like much is moving.
Right. Not asking for creative finance. I'm just coming and asking, why are they selling? Why didn't they do the project themselves? What am I not seeing that they potentially saw? And getting the story and being able to bring that intel back, and then going once more right before writing the offer and talking just the baseline asking down. And allowing those walls to kind of be pulled down, because if you just straight up write an offer and say, hey, here's 90. Well, I think the other great response, probably not even going to get a received offer email.
We what I know we've done a couple times is we've expressed that, hey, we know that these things are issues. We're not coming back with these. So, like, for instance, on that $120,000 example, we're looking at the photos. We assume that the seller thinks that somebody's going to come back and, the drywall looks bad, the electrical box looks bad. We see all that in the photos. So if we acknowledge that on the front end and say, hey, we know that those are bad, we're not going to negotiate on those later. Like, we'll take those off the table during that inspection window. We see they're rough. I think that helps also during that process. And that takes a qualified agent to have that conversation.
And let's just pull those off the margin table, right? You've already secured, you've already won those. And so the one remaining question I have is, how's the foundation of the house this year? And we're going to check those two things. We're going to start at 110, and we'll talk in 5 days. And really having an agent that can do that and frame up the importance, exactly like you just said. And I mean, we did this on a deal earlier this year where I think it was a 125 list price.
I think that's exactly it.
And did that, and she was ready to leave. And then somebody else who was on the hook comes in and it's like, no, 135. And then we got into a bidding war. So that's why I add that one in to navigate up front, because if we would have wrote an offer at 125, we would have never bought the house. Because somebody else, she just went back to the other person that had already offered 120 and they said no to, or however that was done up. And they would have came in and bid it higher. Looking back, that might have been a missed opportunity to just wholesale real quick.
You know what? Live and learn.
All
right. So that's kind of the first stage, is the pre-offer stage. Sounds like then the offer, that tends to be pretty straightforward. Any thoughts or expansion there?
When writing an offer, knowing that I like to have my offers so foolproof that they're not coming back with a counter. That's a win for me. And I think having an agent, for anybody interviewing a new agent, this is not me pitching me. In fact, I don't really want to work with buyers anyways. I've done it a lot. I need a break. Having an agent asking them the question of, like, how do you see yourself getting things pinned? How many counters on average are you having? Those random questions throw agents off and you get their natural reaction. Because it's frame control, right? You're bringing a frame in that's disrupting their normal flow and cadence of pitching you on being their agent. You're going, how many counters did you write on your last deal? It's like, wait, what? 7? Oh, you wrote 7? So you're not even communicating with the agent, because you're running 7 counters. There's no phone calls happening. And phone calls to me are accepted offers that are good deals. And we were discussing, I don't know when this recording will get clipped to start it, but at some point we were talking about my generation. Everybody wants to text. And I said, it's a realtor problem now. All realtors just want to text their clients and to each other. And I hate it, because you need that tone of voice. So in offers, I mean, it depends on the marketplace, right? If you're in Indy right now, it's getting hotter, but we still don't have enough inventory
Yeah.
We don't have enough inventory, but we also don't have that wave of demand pushing it to a full seller's market. I like to say we're kind of neutral right now.
Yeah. It kind of feels that way.
I feel like buyers can win and sellers can win, and it just depends on the property and depends on the product that's being sold. But I like to know every single reason why the seller should possibly sell.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's grandma that's 70 and just moving. I want to know, like, where's your next place?
Yeah.
Why has this been on the market for X amount of days? And really hear that story and tailor an offer to that in the right ways.
Yes.
Give them a few and take a few. That's how the market is right now. There's 400 lines in a purchase agreement. There's 400 opportunities to either make somebody happy or make your client happy, right? And finding that balance to get a great deal across the table.
I think you just touched on something really important, which is your agent needs to be out there getting information for you. They need to be getting on the phone, meeting the other agent in person, just whatever it takes to get a higher fidelity means of communication. Like we could write this out as a blog post, but this is a much higher fidelity way of communicating than just doing a blog post. And same thing with a phone call, same thing with meeting with the agent, meeting with the other with the sellers themselves potentially. That's how you get across the finish line, and that's how good agents separate themselves from great agents.
Yep. And sometimes these are the best agents. And if I were shopping for an agent, I would want to know how often that agent steps out of the way and lets the buyer and seller talk. We don't have attorneys in Indy in between deals. It's just agents. And what I found so many times, the buyer and seller talk, shit gets done.
Yeah.
Deals get made. And it's deals to, like, maybe not the way that I would frame it up and the words that I would use, but enough that I can come back and go, okay, you're happy with X and you're happy with Y.
Translate. Yeah. You just want to translate.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's super smart.
And
I think agents are terrified of getting disintermediated in that process. Yeah. But I think you're totally right that the confident ones, the ones who are able to sit there and have read Never Split the Difference and can like actually put a deal together, like that's where they're super powerful.
And I love what you just said. You said agents get scared. They get completely terrified that the buyer and seller just go run off and get married. Yep.
You're not wrong.
You got no relationship then.
Yeah.
I would not be terrified to allow any of my clients to talk to a seller. I full-heartedly believe that there is not a single client that would go and just get it done with the seller. And if they would, great. Yeah. Hopefully it comes out well. But they know the value that I add.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different than going and buying something off market with a wholesaler. I guess I'll add. I actually accept that. Like, I'm like, please just go do that because I will get in the way. Yeah. I actually just don't want to be a part of the process.
Fair.
So.
Fair. All right. So we've covered the first two stages, which is the pre-offer, offer. Let's talk a little bit about the inspection window. What are you seeing right now? Like what is the negotiating opportunity during that stage?
Yeah. There is so many different ways to get a win as a buyer. And there are so many ways to protect yourself as a seller to not take it out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with the seller and not taking it out and frame to the client that is on the back end of a successful flip. Ways to not take a loss when preparing that thing is doing a pre-inspection.
Yeah.
Off-lease invites it. They get done with the contracting. Don't just rush that thing to market. Take 2 weeks. Allow an inspection to happen.
Yeah.
Hand a report back and go, either these were things that were missed or things that we didn't know about going into it and they weren't part of the scope of work. Let's have a candid conversation and get them fixed. Get the property to what everybody expected it to be.
Yeah.
And an agent just going in and making a punch list is not sufficient.
No. Agents don't know. Most agents don't know anything about construction.
Trust me, I've sent punch lists before after construction is done. And there's still things that I miss. Yeah. Because I'm not an inspector. I'm spending 25 minutes in the house.
Yeah.
Inspectors can be there for 3-4 hours.
I think you're hitting on a really important piece there, which is get more qualified eyes on there.
Yeah.
Like The contractor is going to look at it from their perspective. The inspector is going to look at it from their perspective. And I actually think the thing that you're not hitting on there that we've seen a client, the shared client here, really struggle with is they didn't get the agent's opinion before they put it on the market. And they cut some corners on some last minute things like landscaping, things like staging, that if they would have taken that extra couple weeks and spent that extra couple $1,000s, it wouldn't have sat on the market for months, and it probably would have sold for tens of thousands more than what it probably will.
Yep. And there is a difference between, I see it all the time. Every flip that I've ever listed, I am having the photographer juggle a balance of, hey, cleaning crew's still in here, and I'm in my car ready to shoot photos, and I have another appointment in an hour. Like, I need to get in, and they're in my way. I can reschedule, charge a trip fee or whatever. It's like, okay, go do that, because that is as close to pictures getting taken on flips.
Yeah.
Staging, there are so many. You just have to Google, does staging make your home sell for more? And there is not going to be a single case study that says no.
Yeah.
Every single one is going to show 10 to 15%.
10 to 15%.
It's in 10 to 15% as in time is money.
Yeah.
And also more like 2 to 3% on the price.
It's huge.
But what's the difference between 120 days in the market to 10 days over asking?
And 2 to 3% on asking that's an agent fee right there.
Yeah.
Like, you just paid for your agent if you spend that couple extra, then maybe $2,000 on that.
100%. And it will not only, it won't pay for itself. That's not the staging paying for itself. That's the staging being a value add to the flip. I think hard money lenders
Should require it.
should require staging on a full gut flip. And they should put it in the last draw or whatever and just have it ready to go. I have even gone as far to say, you don't want to spend the capital on it. I get it because it's not coming from the line of credit. I will front the money for the staging and you pay for it in my agency fee on the back end. We're just going to add it on top. The exact dollar for dollar. I've actually said if it's like $1,100 for the staging, you're going to pay $1,250.
Yeah, make a couple bucks.
And have the interest on it, and I'll front the money, and we'll do it. And I got no. I've got no 3 times on that. And every single house, I'm still walking in, trying to get this sold. Where staging wins is when people are walking in the house. It's not the photos. Mm-hmm. Because I know immediately everybody's going to say, well, there's AI staging, virtual staging. It's not the photos. You could have a blank house on Zillow and staging in the house, and staging still makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because it's imagining yourself living there. You have to think about who you're selling it to.
Yeah. And honestly, stagers are really good at hiding the blind spots in your house in a way that
good.
I remember
we're imagining a space.
Yeah, imagining a space. That's a better way of putting it. But I remember there's this one house that we did in Noblesville. I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, and just there was no way to position it such that there was going to be a dining room.
Yeah,
and they frequently hid that in a way that you never would have felt it. Yeah. Now there's an incredible island that you could do a dining room island, but there's no way you're going to get a dining room in the living room. And they hid that in such an incredible way. And so, yeah, I think people walked in there and that house sold for what we were hoping for.
Yeah, it baffles me. And what I found is there's also a price point difference, right? And your agent can educate you on this. At what price point does it really move the needle?
Yeah.
And at what price point is it just inviting squatters in to sleep on the stager's couch? There are markets and areas that
on your $150,000 flip, you're probably not doing it. But
you're probably not selling to the I doubt that you're selling to the family that's expecting a kid and getting married and the young couple moving in. You're probably selling right back to an investor in those situations at the 150 mark. Yeah. And usually I've seen it more in the 50s than I have in the 300s. It's just it irks me because I've actually talked about buying the house, the subject house that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because
I think you're doing great on it.
So long.
And it's a great area.
Yeah.
And the rehab's good.
Yeah. The rehab's great.
Yeah. So, all right. So we talked about the seller side, protecting yourself on that side. Let's talk about the kind of the buyer side. How to use that as you talked about more defense from the seller side to avoid there being, a huge issue on the
inspection going in, knowing what's coming, staging,
knowing and pricing accordingly, so that knowing that, oh, hey, we're going to get negotiated on this piece, so let's not lose too much on the front end. So great. Let's talk about the buyer side.
On the buy side, it's all about going into it with, I like to invite people to just write it down. Write down what you want to get out of this. Where are you at in the deal now? Likely we've slept on it. We're 24 hours after pending. It's probably like 72 hours. Inspectors going in, you're getting that report back. 5-ish days, we'll call it. You've had enough time to really think on what this deal looks like and whether it's any type of deal. You're going to have those immediate, you're going to have the celebration and then that, oh shit, what did I just do? And having a mindset of, oh shit, what did I just do? Can this get better? And can this be a win? Because everything you're going to get, I bought for $2.
Can this get better? That's an interesting thing, right? So I hadn't thought about that, but let's talk about that a little bit.
The reason I say that is, why would somebody mutual release? It's because I think that they got screwed up.
Yeah. And
it's their last exit ramp. We're on the interstate. It's the last one with the gas station to refuel and get back on.
Yeah.
And you take the exit ramp every time because you're like, I'm in a position where even if you won the offer round, you still feel like no matter what you do, primary residence, you're always going to feel like you paid too much.
Okay.
Any property you buy, you are never going to feel like you won, even when you have the biggest win.
Yeah.
So write down, how can
something was wrong with the house? Yeah.
Yeah. How can this get better and how can I win? How can I walk away with this irrefutably knowing that I made a good purchase? And write it down. And share that with your agent going into it. And then get the facts back and apply what you want to what you know.
Yeah.
And then go negotiate for it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, in my opinion. I have yet to see something on an inspection report that truthfully, if I was under contract, I wouldn't walk away. I've yet to see something. Because 2 + 2 always equals 4.
So, okay, let's expand on that a little. So you're under contract on a house, or you've got a client under contract on a house, and you find out that the main line is completely collapsed.
Yeah.
In that situation, it's going to be $15,000, let's say, for the sake of conversation. Sweet. So when you're saying that you wouldn't walk away, what you're saying there isn't that you would just absorb that $15,000 hit and do it. No, you go back and you place a counteroffer saying, hey, I need you to fix this by a qualified contractor or need you to reduce the price by $15,000.
What's the next guy in line going to say?
Yeah. Well, and I think what's also really important there is you have to have an agent who is willing to be a little bit of a dickhead and who's willing to say, great, now we all know that was not on the disclosure statement. Guess what's happening? You better update that disclosure statement if we mutually release. Otherwise, you're doing malpractice or whatever it's called in that world.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part of that is I will make sure that everybody coming back to this property knows that main line's through.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
The seller has no option. And if they can't afford it, we got to get creative. It's got to come out of the settlement statement. Yeah. And talking through the BIR, SIR, buyer inspection response, and seller inspection response, there's key language that I see missed more often than I see it correct. And that is involving around credits, concessions, and checks. 3 different ways to get compensated monetarily.
Break those down. Because I don't think I know the difference.
You have your credits, which are closing cost credits.
So what that means is that at closing, let's say, for instance, you get $15,000 in credits, that whatever your down payment you would have to put would be reduced.
No, you can't even put it towards down payment for most lenders.
Okay.
The most that you can do with that is pay your title fees, maybe your year of insurance, your taxes, and buyer recount.
Wow. Okay.
And the other buyer agency, and then you could pay the buyer agency.
Gotcha. So and then it reduces the purchase price as well, essentially.
No, they'll go in the trash.
It'll go in the trash.
Credits can go away. If you don't utilize all of your credits, they go away. Because your lender is not going to allow you to not you personally put $15K into the deal. Like if you're buying a $200,000 house and it's 20% down, you have to put $60K in, $40K in.
Yeah, it depends on what the down payment is. Yeah,
20%.
inversion, guys. This is why we don't do public math. Yeah, $48,000.
Yes.
Well, $40,000.
100%.
Yeah. So
60 would be the loan. That's why I said 60.
yeah, there you go. In that scenario, then you would they wouldn't just say, hey, instead of coming 40, you can come 25. You still got to come. You're 40. Wow. Okay.
And that credit just disappears. It's not used.
Okay.
So that's where the lender sometimes won't even walk you through that all the way. Because what they're going to do is they're going to do quick math and go, okay, we need about 1%. We need about $2,000, $2,500 to get you for your closing costs. And we're just going to put the rest of that straight to the rate.
That's a great agent trick right there, is to do it with credits.
Yeah.
Because then the seller wins.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about, what was that called? The credits?
That's just straight credits.
All right.
And that's it. Somebody says closing credits. You have to specify where the credits are going to. And the reality is that's why a lender doesn't let you take more than 2%. Like any Fannie Freddie loan, you cannot go over 2% in credits, because what are you going to do with them? 1%, 1 to 1.5 is going to closing costs, and the other half they're either dumping into the rate or they're probably just dumping it into the rate.
Okay. So what are the other concessions you can get there?
So your next one is a check.
Okay.
You cannot legally, in the state of Indiana, maybe you can in other places, I highly doubt it, you cannot get a check to your personal name from the title company.
How can we know you can get it towards the contractor, though?
You can only get it to your contractor to fix repairs that are mentioned on a buyer inspection response and or addendum.
Gotcha.
It is the only possible way to do it. And I have recently seen, not even recently, I see it all the time. They'll come back and they'll say credit/check. And I go,
which one?
Number one, can we clarify? Number two, where's the scope of work that's even justifying? And number three, it's a $200,000 house. You can't even take, you can't have that much credits. So where are you applying what? And it's always interesting. Are you dumping that into liquor costs and hiding it and asking for there's no way to know.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be specified. It has to be specified as much to, like when I write it, I'll write a $10K check to off-leash construction made out by the title company, mailed to X address.
Yeah.
Mailed to Paul's house on the desk.
It happened once or twice. Based on this SOW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't really ever added an ask for the SOW, but that's a title.
Yeah.
Seller's agent.
Asking
for that.
If they're not, they're doing malpractice.
Yeah.
Right there. Gotcha.
And that's like, I get mind boggled. And yeah, I gotta hold the story.
All right.
We'll in the future.
Yeah, all right. It's not one of my stories.
Not what it is.
All right. Perfect. Well, we just had an interesting transaction here. We're kind of in the middle of it / closing today. So, is there any learnings that the group here can learn based on the inspection window that occurred today? Like opportunities that maybe you and I could have improved, or vice versa, or like any areas where we really won the scenario.
Yeah, I think if there's anything, let's bring up the deal. I'm totally it's $295, right?
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
In my head, it was $395.
He actually got $5,000 over asking, which was a huge win. I think it was within the first weekend. So huge win. Yeah.
So we had a deal that you had under contract for $240 wholesale.
Sounds right.
And you hit me up. You're like, "Hey, can we try to wholesale this?" I said, "No,
wholesale." Or
originally, I was going to wholesale.
Okay.
I was trying to find somewhere. to take it. And the problem was the scope. Man, if somebody would have bought this to flip it, oh my goodness,
They would have done really well.
oh my, really well or really bad.
Yeah.
Depending on, anyways. So we got it for 240. There didn't seem to be enough margin for the ARV to be up to.
You know what? I think it was actually 240. 230, and then we listed it at 290. I think that was for that.
So then you closed on it. You brought it back to me. You got it cleaned out. I sent the photographer in, took pictures, threw it on the market at 290, and that was it. There was really no other inspection besides that. Just pictures.
Just let it go.
Clean out. And
it was pretty clean house.
Yeah.
Like, based on what we saw, like it didn't need a whole lot.
No. And I think that might be the only lesson point. Maybe to just send an inspector in there.
Yeah.
At least a 5 point.
Yeah, that would probably be smart. Yeah.
In hindsight.
So maybe this general contractor is not the one who should be inspecting a house. It's the learning. Yeah.
Well, it's a focus point, right?
Yeah.
You're in the buyer seat and the contractor seat.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless, we get it under contract, 5K we're asking. They send their inspector in, and I get a phone call. Like, hey, the crawl space is a pond. Was the word that they used. It wasn't even a pool, it was a pond. And I'm like, great. Is it touching the subfloor by chance? And they're like, no. Probably in the clear.
Yeah.
Pretty bacteria, mold growth, or just walk
Deterioration.
Yeah. And I still don't think that it's ever touched it because that insulation. So insulation was soaked.
Yeah.
And I knew from that moment there was going to be a rough transaction because getting a water out from under the ground is not the easiest thing in the world.
No.
Right? And especially something that's been dug out. And the whole objective of a crawl space is to keep water off of the wood foundation.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna you just have water come back no matter what. And then the neighbor walked over and told us that
this is
an issue, that it's just flat land and water likes to come back. I'm like, great. So the objective was to get it cleaned out to finish the inspection before we got to see a response.
Yep.
And I was like, I asked a lot of good questions. It was like, what have you seen on the inspection report so far that you have gotten, just so we can get ahead of things? And it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was very minor.
It was like some minor bacteria growth.
Yeah. Some roof
some shingles needed to be nailed down. Not bad.
For whoever used to own this house, low maintenance, they probably had done very little maintenance. And it was just, let's punch this stuff. You could send the handyman over there. And we get half a day and have half of it done. But it was just crawl space. It just kept being the issue. And we got to the inspection. Deadline. You typically have 10 to 14 days. This particular one was 10 days. And the reason it got pushed to that window is because we couldn't get the day crawl space dry. We kept sending people over, replacing some pumps, and digging little troughs to get water to go towards the pit, all the good stuff, to do all the right things. But every time the inspector went back,
there was a lot of rain during that period too.
It was pretty terrible. Yeah. And Nick and I, being the nice guys that we are, kept us saying, just send them back. We'll cover the fee. We'll get it taken care of. I think I paid for 2 of them. You paid for 2 of them. And total of 4 fees. We finally got it to dry, and I got photo evidence this time. And I'm like, go back out tomorrow. It's all going to be okay. They get there, and they say, it's too muddy. I can't enter in the crawl space. I don't know if this is factual. I have personally had inspectors go into crawl space when it's muddy.
I have too.
And typically they have a little white suit that they put on that is like a crawl space suit specific for situations like these. But this particular inspector said he doesn't want to get his clothes dirty. He has another inspection to go to later. Fine. And that wasn't fine. At that point, it blew up.
Yeah, the deal almost.
And I had to be a dick.
Yeah.
There was no other choice. And it was, we need an inspection response now. And we have paid, at this point, that inspector made $3,000 in this inspection. And didn't want to get dirty. And I was frustrated as hell.
We were hot. We were really hot.
Yeah. And so they send a big box foundation company in. get us a scope of work that was more expensive than the new car sitting in the parking lot that I just got.
Yes.
And it came with a fancy lifetime warranty.
I forgot about the lifetime warranty.
Came with a 5-year warranty, which, by the way, is probably a standard manufacturer warranty on the sump pump. It came with a 2-year on some other things, which just seemed to be like manufacturer things.
It was like a foundation lifetime warranty or something, though.
25-year. 25-year on the foundation.
Jesus.
And the foundation wasn't even,
That wasn't a problem.
wasn't a problem. Everything they had on their scope of work was actually new.
Yeah.
And what the reality is, well, I worked up ahead. It was 40 or 45K was the foundation work. And there was like some ductwork stuff down there that was lying on the ground that needed.
Very legitimate. Yeah, there were a couple legitimate items.
Those were completely, what they asked for was legitimate. And what we ended up doing is I said, send a company that will go down there, will give us a list of things that need fixed, and then just put it all on inspection response. Because at this point, we had a conversation about like, there's going to be stuff that has to be fixed. The only way to close this thing up is to fix them. And the agent on the other side, she did the best to represent her clients. And she really wanted them to not have the work done by you guys.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, I get it. She can easily look up tax records to see when the property was purchased.
Yeah.
And in her head, you guys had attempted a flip. And I'm like, nothing had been done.
Yeah.
We just listed it.
We sold a hot tub.
Stole the hot tub. Just listed it. That's it. I'm going to refer to this house as the house you bought just for the hot tub for like
Forever. Yeah.
And but she was weary of having you guys do it because she wasn't familiar. She's not localized, and all great points. I get it. A lot of times buyers do want to choose a contractor, but in this case, it was
$40,000 or $45,000.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
It was an absurd ask. And what we did is we said, I mean, I threw this out there and you didn't even know that I did. And like, because I know Nick and we have a working relationship that if I called him and have to put my tail between my legs and say, hey, I offered this on their behalf, it wasn't anything that he was going to say no to. Yeah. And what the offer was is I said, it is a $10,000 credit for it as they do the work. $10,000 was not going to get them what was done. It just wasn't. Yeah. And I knew that going in.
Oh, so, yeah. No, we did more than $10,000 worth of work.
Yeah, for sure. And it was just to get the point across that, like, the agent needs to just choose to use you guys. Because realistically, they probably would have paid, like, what, 55, 60 to a contractor that she would have recommended.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we end up getting it across the table through a couple inspection responses back and forth, some language, changes. Yeah. Finally get an accepted response. We get all the work done, closing on this thing, and I get a phone call that not only was one sewer line disconnected, but 2 sewer lines were disconnected and just draining straight into the crawl space.
And you best believe we dealt with it.
Yeah. And had to bring in a company
that specialized in that. Yeah.
And I've never heard of such a thing. That it's like, what, vacuum for the crawl space to get all this stuff out. Yeah. And then they go through and dry lock it and make it all pretty and how it should be. Yeah. Which is in the business of investing. I'm sure Nick said a few cuss words when he heard the cost.
I got that call on vacation. Let me tell you, that ruined that day. We didn't go after quite a fancy dinner that night.
Fair. But at the end of the day, it's like, that happens. Yeah. It's the unknown. It's in the game that you are playing, which is wholetailing. And wholetailing has risk, such as you have to come quick with cash and get it closed. Yeah. And that's how it works. And you're still walking away. I'm really good.
I'm not going to be unhappy
with
when the money.
Yeah. And I feel like that deal went as sideways for the buyers, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
As it possibly could have, and it was not our fault.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly say it wasn't our fault. I'm not going to put anybody on blast. It was a standard agent that is what I tell people. Like, you don't want to use your mom or your grandma to represent you on real estate.
Somebody who just decided this is going to be a part-time thing for them.
Yeah.
Like this is a profession. And I know we haven't gotten to the fourth negotiating point yet, but I think the thing that I'm really walking away from this with is, like, I'm pretty good at this. I've invested a decent amount. Like, I've done this once or twice. I still want good fucking agents in my corner. Like, I want good people who understand what the hell they're doing, that have been through it a couple of times, they've had their 20 deals that only 3 of them got across the finish line because they had to go learn from that. They had just to go on, like, the fact that he had 20 under contract was impressive, and I'm really glad to hear that he took that as a learning opportunity. And how many agents probably does it take to get multiple years to get to their first 20 under contract? Like, hell, you got that done real quick, and you got the learnings done nice and early.
I will say that this was about to be my first mutual release, with me exclusively being the only agent on the contract, I should say.
Gotcha.
Because we've got some new agents that have gone out and stuck their toes, and I was riding along on the transactions with them, and that's how it went. It's just so engageable. I was just like, damn it. Because I was like, walking into this year, that was one of my goals, is under 5 mutual releases this year.
Yeah.
Because of last year, it's just running and gunning. It's like, we're going to be smarter. We're going to lead clients better through that escrow process.
Yeah.
And I think the last one is the one that usually ends every deal in a mutual release.
Let's talk about it.
And it's earlier I said retail clients have never had one, and I still haven't. But this is where retail clients feel that mutual release being the most usable, or it comes up as often because it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, in essence, mutual release, everybody's walking away. Typically, the buyer's walking away with earnest money, and it's shake hands. This didn't work. And it's the appraisal.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you said almost an hour ago of what the fourth one was.
But that was it. That was it. So nailed it.
But the appraisal process in recent times, that my brokerage, I couldn't go to a brokerage event without everybody going, how's your appraisal process going? How screwed are you getting? And that's every agent. Every agent would get under contract and go, let's get the appraisal ordered as quick as possible so that we can put this thing back on the market if we have to. The reason for that being, there's a lot of reasons behind the scene, but the Fed has so many levers that they're allowed to pull. Interest got jacked up, demand kept going. Interest got jacked up again, demand kept going.
Yeah.
People were still buying homes. So what can the Fed do? They can put stricter restrictions on the appraisal process to ensure that not as many deals are closing, not as many homes are changing
Getting across the finish line. Yeah.
And what does that do? Broadly across the market, it flattens inventory and flattens prices. Actually, should theoretically bring prices down. If homes are staying on the market for 3-4 months, what's the seller going to do? They're going to be reactive. They're going to drop the price. Or if you get a low appraisal, what happens?
Right. Bridge that gap.
Yeah. And hopefully, home savings were down, right? People didn't have money to come to the table and pay. So this is how bad it's gotten. I'm going to stick on the appraisal thing for just 10 seconds, and then we'll talk about where to negotiate and how to lead that. It has gotten so bad. I closed a deal today. And I'll tell you who the investor was afterwards because you'll be excited for it. We closed today. 3 months ago, they got an appraisal done. And Tyler had it under contract with a client of his. They got an appraisal for $315,000. The deal that I closed today, we appraised at $391,000.
Whoa. With no work done to it?
Yeah. And I said 3 months, it was actually 6 weeks.
No work.
Wow. Nothing at all changed with the home.
Because appraisals are this. Finger to the wind.
Yep. And I've seen it all over the place. I had one earlier this year. It was a flip client that he went and bought a house with a different agent. And we ended up becoming friends because his houses were sitting on the market for 90 days. Somebody inflated ARBs, CMAs for them, and just told them, it's going to sell for this, no doubt. First phone call, he said the address, and look it up. And I said, nah. It just wasn't. And the neighborhood that he was in. And we listed it to not quite in his bottom line, but close to. And it was 200. The appraisal came back at, we were under contract for 240 on this one. The appraisal came back at 190. And this guy was all cash. And when I say all cash, I mean all of the cash into this one property. All of the savings. Talk about panic, right?
Yeah.
No hard money in it. So at least we didn't have monthly expenses. But this is all capital.
Yeah.
It's the whole nest egg in there. And you have one independent person walking in telling you what the home is valued at.
Yeah.
That appraisal sticks on FHA.
Really?
It sticks with the home. You can't bring a new appraiser in. Because that's normally to throw away the lender in the appraisal. Let's get a new one in and we'll ride this out for the next 30 days. And on that one, the FHA appraiser even gave work. Like they're allowed to give work that needs done because they're taking their risk with private money or PMI, private mortgage insurance. And then they're also taking risk with the fact that they are owning the lump sum of equity of that home, being that 97.5% is owned by the bank. So they have to make sure the home is up to standards. And really that, like for FHA, the best world for them is that somebody stays in the house for a really long time.
Yeah.
And the way I resolved that one is I called, candidly had a conversation with the buyer's agent and I said, yeah, we can't do that. We can't get to your price. We're not going to get to your number. We will fix the things. Absolutely. But we can't get to the number. We also can't use FHA anymore. It's no longer an option. And I went and researched and found them a really, really great grant program and a insured conventional product and paired the lender and the agent together. And they got bought in. They closed for $500 less than they would have with FHA. And they also bought the house for $5K. So it didn't quite ever appraise all the way up where it did.
You know what? That's a freaking win.
Yeah. Like those are one of them where that isn't those types of deals where I have that like, God damn it, can it ever be easy?
Yeah.
And then it's like, sit down for a second, think about how can we and then bring solutions, right? That's what an agent should be doing. I'm not saying I'm the best agent out there. In fact, I tell people that I'm a terrible agent. I'm just not organized, right? I'm going to be a fire hose straight on and then shut up and hit you up. And that's good. My focus is elsewhere. But in that, like, it's so freaking difficult when most agents just walk away from that. They would say something to the cadence of the buyer needs to bring 30K. Or the seller needs to come down 30K in those gaps. And that's how the negotiation goes. And it's not the case.
You know, we've talked about this a lot, but being an agent is a very low barrier to agent. Compared to,
too low.
Yeah, it's super easy to become an agent in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, it took me 9 times to pass the national test, but that's neither here.
Well, regardless, like, you know, if you're a halfway even test taker, you know, it doesn't take necessarily 9 times.
It's probably a good thing that it took me 9 times.
Yeah.
It means that I have the right mindset.
Yeah, but it is super easy. And so what that means is that there's quite a bit of bad agents out there, quite a few bad agents who aren't willing to be creative, aren't willing to go and take that extra step. Yeah, and honestly, based on 2020 and 2021, it was freaking easy to be an agent. If you happen to have a listing, like, shoot, man, it was just about the price.
Dumb luck.
Yeah, just about the price, just about the right client.
That's why I respect Tyler so much. It's when he started being an agent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people could write him off and say that's dumb luck. His first year. I'll even throw it in. It probably was dumb luck.
Yeah.
He's still doing the same numbers today. That's dumb luck.
Yeah.
Right? He has that mindset to continue. That's why I'm partnered with him. Yeah. 2021 was huge. Big flashy numbers. 22, I watched him scramble a little bit.
Yeah. And
he had to figure it out. And then he figured it out and continued to build off of it. And I love that. I love that he's been able to do that because you can very easily, 22 to 23, I said 5 years wrong. But it was so easy to be an agent. I don't even realize it code on YouTube anymore.
It's not like we're going to get demonetized.
The other thing might come in.
Yeah. All right. So based on all this, what are the couple takeaways that you're hoping people take from this hour-long conversation or whatever it's been so far?
Yeah, property sell average 10 days on market is what I read this morning.
They pegged 10 days.
In 10 days. Fully sell, right? It's typically 30 days.
So like 40 days total.
Yep. But 10 days they're on market. 10 days you're aware of them, and that's the prelims, right? You know you have your buy box down. You know your criteria. You see the deal, you pursue it, and repeat. You now have 30 days where the deal gets real and it's your first experience with the home, right? It's kind of like, I'll refer back to this when I hop on the pod in January, but I assume that it's like bringing a newborn home. Like there's a lot that you got to do in those first days to figure it all out.
You think pregnancy is hard?
Yeah. But really, I mean, I guess that's just for our minds. That's I think a kid this year, but I think the analogy is true. It's you're finding everything out all at once, and it's deciding if you want to keep it. No, I'm just kidding. You want to keep the house in Detroit?
Wow. All right. If that doesn't get us demonetized, I don't know what it is. But
Sidewalk for my kid.
well, I agree with all those takeaways. The only other one that I'd say is make sure you're working with somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. That's been through it, has taken their lumps, has tripped a couple of times, has pended their 20 deals so that they can get their 3, and is equipped. It is equipped to get you across that finish line, because you do have 4. I miscounted here before we started, so I'm glad you were able to educate me. But 4 different negotiating phases.
I think the last piece on that is as a client to the agent that's out, like when an agent's doing all the right things because you're getting updated on all the right things, and like that's I don't think it becomes better than Marky would think for me, because I maybe get 3 texts the entire time. We're not contact for anything, which is great from my seat. But it's because I know that I'm going straight to his team and around. But that's like
because you go around me.
Honestly, I go around you.
Smart play.
There's during this is interesting that we're talking about this now, because I had on Tuesday morning sat down with my team. And the theme in August for our team meetings is rewriting how we work with buyers. Mm-hmm. We really want to have that white glove and platinum service. And I realized that get in this industry, jump straight into the deep end without knowing how to swim or have a life jacket on, just drown, and then surface and bring all the lessons learned. MR on the 17 deals, close the 3. And that's how I've led our agents. And now they've done that. They're getting their closings, they're getting traction going. And we're bringing it back into the room to say, let's rewrite how we work with buyers. And we just sat there and talked about every single touch point that you have with your clients throughout the buy process. And then we highlighted it. Should it be a phone call? Should it be electronic communication, text, email? And is it a TC's job? And the amount of green, which was a phone call, on that Google document by the time we were done was overwhelming. And it's realizing how often you actually should pick up the phone and have a conversation is you should be, and your client should be receptive to that. And if you're not talking to your agent, I'm not going to say daily throughout the entire process, but at least 10 to 15 times on the phone, probably a problem going on. You're probably not getting the best representation. Just for the number one takeaway, strap in, be ready.
Yeah, be ready for those calls. It's a hectic process.
Yeah, emotional process too.
You think as a seller, you choose a buyer, getting to that offer is the hard part. No, that 30 days is going to be something. So, Max, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about getting under contract with you and having you represent them?
Yeah, I think everything's on the roots really not good. To make it simple.
Beautiful. And if you guys need anything with regards to construction, or if you just want advice on how to get started in the industry, feel free to reach out to me, Nick at offleashconstruction.com. Here to help however I can. Hope everyone has a good one. Max, I know you've got a listing meeting here in a few minutes, so I'll let you go, but talk to you soon, man.
Sounds good.